and welcome to Beyond the Barracks, the podcast where service ends, the story begins. And today I'm joined by the amazing Sip Powers. Hi, how's it going?
Yes, going okay.
Yeah, so Sip, we'll jump straight in because there's so much to cover with you, with all your exploring and adventuring and charity fundraising. So, can you sort of walk us through your early years and what led you to joining the military, really?
So I was a very active kid, always have been. There were 4 of us in the family, and I was the youngest. And the old you get your pass me downs, but I needed them because I was just constantly crawling around and rubbing the knees out of my trousers, so I'd get all this kit. My father was ex-Royal Air Force, and his last posting was at a place called RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire, and we were raised in a village literally just next to RAF Waddington. Kind of dad not wanted me to join the military, but I was keen on what I'd love to sit. He was a tech designer, and I'd sit with him and we'd talk about stuff, But my dad was very ill. He did a couple of the nuclear testing, Christmas Island and New Zealand, and actually, when he passed away, he actually died when I was in the Gulf War. I think he was like the 3rd or 4th alive from his entire squadron. He just didn't understand the impact of the research they were doing back in the day, I suppose. Well, he'd like to think so, but anyway. So I joined the Marine Cadets at like 12 years old, and that was it. And I just the rest is history. I joined the Marines as a junior Marine at 16, and I kind of went through my career. There was things that happened. I left, and then later on I joined the army. I joined the RCT. I didn't have my license, and this. It was an RCT staff sergeant went, "Mate, have you got your license?" I went, "No, mate." And he went, "Join the RCT. You'll be driving in 2 weeks' time and all that." So I was like, okay, and I joined up. I didn't really have to do all of the training, obviously, because of my time at CTC, and lo and behold, I joined a regiment in Germany, 1 armoured div, and literally 2 Gulf War, baptism of fire. I hadn't even really learned how to drive, left hooker vehicles. I was having RTAs left, right, and centre getting filled in.
So, do you think your cadet career, if you like, as they call it, do you think that helped you in basic training? Or I know the Royal Marines is a whole 6 months, isn't it? Did that give you any advantage?
When I went through CTC in '87, so it was 30 weeks back then. It's longer now, so it's it did, because I'd been to CTC a couple of times. So when I did the 3-day selection, that really helped from that, because I'd already been on the Tarzan Assault course and done the endurance course and stuff like that. But and I could fold clothes, I could iron kit, I could shape a berry, I could march, I'd fired a weapon. So it was really. Join the military, be a cadet first. Doesn't matter what cadet you are, because it just instills a bit of discipline, a bit of core values, and so the transition for me was super easy. And when I came into the army, my time in the Marines absolutely helped me my army career.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. It's well, I'm a massive advocate of the cadets, so
I know.
Same message. For me, it stood me in good stead for basic training, because, as you said, you can do drill, you can do your kit, you can do all the basics, and it makes it just that little bit easier. Which any advantage you can get in basic training is definitely a winner. So
I was talking about it actually to. I've got that I serve with Morecambe. He's a He's an excellent lad. He's been a really real support for the last couple of years. Talking about it last night, he does security. He was working last night, and we were laughing about it on the phone. You know, when I walked and the guy and the full screw was in the corner, and you know there's 54 of us. And he walked in, and went, right, mate, how would you like it? And I went, oh, I know I'm here, so it's obviously got to be short, but can you, mate? Zzz, zzz. And he was doing it with every single person. I'm just like, oh my god. It's
Yeah, yeah.
the 80s as well, so there's guys with perms and Spandau ballet.
Yeah, we had this guy, and he was that reminds me, he had beautiful hair, and he was stunning. He was like 6 foot, blonde, muscles everywhere. And he went into the barbers. They shaved his hair off and then gave him army issue gigs, and it was like he was Clark Kent or something. It was like crazy. Yeah. So you did a few years in the Royal Marines. How did you find that?
So yeah, my time in the Marines was very short. I had a quite a bad ankle injury and was given a short discharge. So I was out for a year and then told to reapply, which I did. So I was in a joint careers office in Lincoln, and when I went to the Navy desk, and it was actually a Navy recruiter there, and I gave him all my paperwork and everything like that, and he went, we're maxed out. You'll need to wait months. And I was like, what? And then that's when the RCT staffy jumped in and went, mate, have you got your licenses? He was shouting across the. I went, no. He went, mate, join the RCT and we'll get you your licenses 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. So yeah, the rest is history. So I was RCT for a while, and then obviously it retraded to the RLC in a different cause. And I was actually when it changed from RCT to RLC, I did a couple of tours of Ireland. I was in Northern Ireland, and they literally gave us a cloth, because we had metal cap badges in the RCT, and then the RLC initially they gave us a cloth cap badge, so we had to take the cap badge out and just sew the. And all the boys were unhappy because they were like, "This is shit. I want to be RCT." And like some of them were putting their cap badges on the back of their collars and lots of stuff that was going on. Weren't wearing the new belts or anything. But to be honest, to me, the transition, because I'd already gone through some transitions anyway, whatever. And we're just doing it. We need to crack on with our job in Northern Ireland, which was quite, it was quite a tasty. Yeah. And then while I was out there, I spoke to, obviously, Hereford were out there doing the recruiting. We were all fit lads. We were fit lads. I was a young lad. And they were like, mate, have a go. You're a fit lad. And there was a few of us. There was 4 of us from the same det. We were in trying to think of the fob we were in. Gurwood Park, overlooking New Lodge and Shankill. All the honking places to be in Ireland. That's right where we were, which was great. And so we were like, yeah. So there was 4 of us, and we signed up, and then we finished the tour. We went back to our units. I was still based in Germany, and then the paperwork came through about 6 months later for a winter selection, and there wasn't phones back, anything like that, And I got in touch with all my mates saying, mate, if the paperwork come through, and they're like, yeah. And I went, right, what are you doing it? They're like, no. They'd all started drinking again and smoking and not doing any fizz. And so I was the only one that kind of went forward in the end, and they took me off mainstream training because there was massive exercise in Germany back in the day, and I had a guy, had a corps man that had been to Hereford that was helping me train, and there was a staffy who was ex-Blade, and he was kind of help mentoring me a little bit, beasting me, and I did the guards. Pre-selection, what sent me to Purbright, and I did all right, and did all right. And then so through the process, I started getting really ill. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm training too hard or whatever. And basically, I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. So that was it. Everything ended to the point where they were going to kick me out. And I was like, shit. And one of my staffies, and I'll mention him, Al Tyndall, he became the core RSM. His dad had served at Hereford as well. And he wrote a really nice letter saying, look, he's a good lad, he's a fit lad, he's keen, don't kick him out. Let's retrade him within the core. Because I don't know if you're aware, if you become a type 1 diabetic, DVLA policy that you lose all your licenses, your HGV. So I couldn't stay in the as a driver because by then I was a corporal, I was a packing commander and all that. Yeah, so almost here because I'm no Walt Mitty. I didn't get in or anything like that. I'm not trying to be. So I went from hero to zero. Shit. But I was very lucky they kept me in. And then as a type 1 diabetic, I'm then having to try and prove that I'm as capable as anyone else. Eventually retraded, and they were just sticking me on every course possible, PTI, skillies, to a point where I went to, I did all the Sanders selection process as an instructor, and yeah, they just turned me into this basically.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because I obviously know bits of your story, but I thought the type 1 diabetes was kind of after for some reasons.
No, so it's no. Yeah, and obviously not there aren't many type 1 diabetics that will have done what I did in my service. I was very lucky. I kept myself really fit. Went to all the boards. I had paperwork to prove all the stuff that I'd been doing, and and they kept sending me on tour. I did 5 tours of Bosnia and Kosovo, 3 tours of Ireland. I was in the Gulf, and a few tours of Afghan. So stopped me from doing what I wanted to do. And I'm blessed that there were people around me that could see that, and where worried that it would when I went all the way. I was very lucky all the way through the ranks. I was out in Cyprus as the senior, and they said, look, have you thought about commission? I was like, no, and it was actually my wife, Emma, this is not an extension of your career. You care about your blokes. Maybe you'd make a good officer because you're always bitching about they're not as good as they should be. And so I put my paperwork in, and I was lucky. I got through the process, and then I got to 4 years.
Yeah, so it's really interesting that because I see lots of, and you must have been kind of pioneering because as you said, normally type 1 diabetes are kicked out. So it was you were well placed, and because I think you were potentially what was going to be the pinnacle of that career path, getting through selection. I think that had you in good stead, didn't it? Because they realised you weren't, if you like, a waster. You were going to continue to keep fit and strive and push. And it was good that you were given a chance because a lot of people sometimes aren't, are they? That they're kind of thrown out,
Yeah,
particularly in that day.
It literally, it was a kick up the arse, to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and moan about being a type 1 diabetic. There's other things that are going on now as well, but I've got both my legs. Especially with your interview with Mark the other day, how can I sit here and moan about? I think because I was a PTI, if there were diabetics in the service, they would let me take these young diabetics. It's called a honeymoon period for your first 6 months because you're just trying to get used to it. And I would take them on PFTs and CFTs and out on the field and, do stuff with them, train them how to use things like isotonics to bring their levels up and eat healthier and, not bloody smoke and drink and, so they could look after themselves. And I loved it. So I was one of the first, almost like pioneering as a PTI at 1GS based in. There was 4 regiments there, and I was a senior PTI. My corpsman went on a tour, so I was running the regiments as stepped up as a corpsman, because I was going to go corps as well. That was another thing that I was going to try and do. But irony, the PTI stopped me from doing that. Anyway, yeah. So I was looking after all the broken blokes. The fatties that couldn't pass basic tests, the guys that had a bit of a drink problem, and were struggling. And I did that for pretty much 2 years, and I was taking so well. The other 3 regiments saying, "Sip, we've got this guy. Can you?" I'm like, yeah. And then obviously now the system that's in place for rehab and what the corpsmen are doing with the blokes now is insane. And my time when I was in, there was no Headley Court or anything like that, so there just wasn't the same sort of.
Yeah, no, that because from my day it was kind of, we had a little bit of rehab, but the PTIs didn't really know, and obviously from your experience, you had to learn pretty fast how to deal with your diagnosis to be able to stay in and stay functioning. Because if you like,
and
you were clicking on that
And that's what I
life.
was saying to these lads. Listen, it is possible to stay in. Look at me. I'm still in, and I've got a potential to have a full career. You just need to sort this out so that you don't get kicked out on a med discharge. And some of them stayed in, and some of them didn't. I actually was mentoring a guy called Tom. From a distance, it was another LE officer that said, "Hey, listen, I've got this lad. He's a good lad. Can you have a word with him? Can you help him?" And so I was telling him to create like a really nice leather-bound folder with all the stuff he was doing, so when he goes to med boards, he can present it. And I was like, I helped him go on a tour, and various things, and they kept him in. And then when my last post was as of 600 Squadron at 6th Regiment up north, and he got posted into my squadron. It's like insane, and he was an amazing lad. He's like built like a brick shit. He's insanely fit, and he's a Type 1, and he looks after himself. And he eventually went to Harrogate as well, and he was part of the Enduro 7 team, and we're really close friends now, and he's got things going on in his life as well. So I just like mentor people really and try and help.
Yeah, and you without sort of knowing it, the knock-on effect of everybody you mentored and got through that time, they're going to be good role models to other soldiers, and it just a ripple effect, isn't it? Definitely.
I just didn't wanted to. I had lots of officers and OCs, and to be honest, when I was a sergeant major, my OC, a guy called Brad Percival, was amazing. A trained lad as well. He was the best boss, and at that time I had no interest in being an officer. All I wanted to be honest, in my career was a sergeant major, and I'd made that, and I was like, I'm happy with that. And but Brad would say to me, "Sip, have you thought about commission?" I'm like, "No, I'm not interested," And he was like, "Well," and then he said to me something like, he said, "Sip, you need to be just a bit guarded, because you got tattooed." And I'm like, "Really?" So don't judge a book, but. And when he told me that, it was on a Friday. He went away, and I got No Fear tattooed on my arm. And when he came in, and we had a really good relationship, like super cool relationship. I called him boss and all that. And he called me Sip. There was no, sometimes he called me Sergeant Major if the lads were there and stuff like that. But he came in on Monday morning. I was stood at the door where the Army Youth Team were based. And I saluted him as he came down, as he walked down, and he saluted me back. And I always used to say to him, "You boring, sir?" And he'd be like, "Good morning, Sergeant Major." And I was saying, "You're boring, sir." And I did it for like 3. He never caught on. And it was like I'd like laugh my tits off when I went back in the office. And I saluted him, and I just held it up for a little bit longer. And then he saluted me back, and then he saw it and went, "You're a knob."
Yeah, it makes me do, eh? So eventually you went over to the dark side and got your LE commission. So how do you think that your background of being a soldier helped you being, I think, probably a better officer in the long run to the lads?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to be careful that I'm not speaking too much in squaddy lingo because I don't know who your listeners are. I'm sure there'll be military and all sorts. But for the civil listeners, there are some good DE officers, direct entries, those that are young, bright lads, girls, come from uni, go straight to officers. I was an LE officer, late entry, so I'd gone through the ranks, and the LE and DE fraternity. And
Yeah,
the lads know an LE officer and a DE officer because as soon as you walk in, they know.
yeah.
And so
You can
just
feel
wanted,
it.
yeah, I wanted to be a good leader and of privilege as an officer to make a difference to the lads and all the things that I did, and to be honest, because
No, it's what sort of leadership lessons do you think, or what was the main thing you've carried forward from those days?
Gina, I've got so many. So there was a padre at six, an amazing bloke, and I always made an effort to speak to him, and I'll draw an image. I'll draw an image. This is going off piece now, isn't it?
Is this a new talent I'm going to find out about soon?
He's drawing a. He's drawing right. So and it almost looks rude, but it's what is right. And he said this like, I was being a bit coy with him, having a laugh with him. And I said, "What do you do? Because you only really work on a Sunday, shit." And he drew that picture. He said, "This is approach people," and basically that is it imitates your belly because he had a bit of a belly, but he was a fit lad on PT. Fuck my life, he led by example, and people loved him and respected him, and that's supposed to be like two bellies, with your belly button coming close together. And he said, what I do, Sip, he said, is I walk around and anyone I see, I go, good morning, how are you? And they go, oh, morning. And he will go, how are you? And he'll ask him twice. And they go, yeah, I'm all right. And he'd do that all day. And then he'd go and then, morning, how you doing? And they go, oh, morning, Padre. And you go, are you okay? And he'd be like, yeah, I'm all right. Are you okay? And the lads that you would, he'd go, and he'd just allow for that awkward silence. And then the lads would go, actually, Padre, I'm okay. But I think, corporate's having a bit of a problem. And he'd be like, okay. He said, what's going on? He said, oh, I don't really know. He said, I just got a feeling. He went, all right, thanks. It's quite, you're not grassing him. Quite brave of you to say that. And then he'd actively seek out Corporal Smith, but he wouldn't go up to him direct. He'd just find him somewhere, and he'd happen to walk past and go, good. And he'd call him his name, because if he went, oh, all right, morning, Corporal Smith would go, how does the fucking Padre know my name? What's going on? So he'd just walk past him and go, and he'd go, oh, morning, Padre, I'm okay. Are you okay? Yeah, no. And can we chat? And he went, of course we can chat. Where would you like to go and talk? Do you want to just walk and talk? And he'd be like, yeah, that'd be amazing. And that's how he did his business. What a bloke. And I absolutely stole that. I stole it from him and used to use it all the time. And
It's so important, that, isn't it? Because we're both sort of mental health advocates, and we've both been quite open with struggles in our past and stuff, and still continue. But asking someone twice or maybe three times is the key thing, isn't it? And asking it with reality.
we're living in a world where everyone is looking down at their phone. I was out this morning running. I did 10K this morning with Ruby, and I don't take my phone with me because all my time is with unless I'm listening to music, clearly. past parents with their kids going to school. Everyone is on their phone, and we just need to look at people in the eye, just communicate.
Yeah.
Because you never know, that person that you're walking down the street, that's walking towards you, and you go, good morning, or you don't have to ask them, just go, good morning, and they might not look at you, and you don't have to say good morning, aggressive. Just the fact that you've said, you've looked at them and said good morning, they might walk past you, they might be having their worst, and they know that someone's acknowledged their existence, and that might be the you know my situation. So, and I'm to the year anniversary of when my wife took her own life. The military, she'd done a couple of tours, and we were together for 35 years. Married for 30. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I know it shocked. It shocked all of us that know you. It was, the words don't even come close to the impact that it had on the community, let alone you.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost a lot of mates, on ops, and I've lost a lot of mates through suicide. But when it's your life partner that you, the rest of you, it just it just it threw me a little bit, and basically was the trigger for my. I've now been diagnosed with PTSD, and yeah, I'm pretty fucked up at the moment. So it's just trying to deal with my own head game while still looking after everyone else, because like I say, with my legs, I'm cutting around. I can't, and I worked for Battleback for 10 years while I served, and people may not know who they are. It's a led initiative run by two charities, Royal British and Help for Heroes, and they basically look after extremely wounded and injured and sick service personnel, both physically and mentally. And we would take them out. We were at the sharp end, and we would take them out paddling and climbing and Klettersteiging in Spain, and they changed my outlook on life, and I don't moan about what's going on with me when you're working with these lads, and they were amazing. They were amazing, that group of. And my first expedition with them was out, and there were 10 lads. There was no females on that one, but there were 10 lads, and I think 10. It was insane. They're all coming back smashed up from Afghan, but they just want, and they were all still serving. They were all pretty much at Headley course. They were all going to get med discharged, if I'm honest. And when you've got visible injuries, people treat you differently, not out of malice, because they just don't understand, and the lads just want to be fucking soldiers. That's exactly what we did. We took the the kind of the motto in Battleback was the motto was, it's not about what you can't do, it's all about what you can. And I was watching, and I'd be at bottom of Crag for these lads, and you'd listen to the banter, and a single leg amputee getting beasted by a double, amputee, going, yeah, you don't know what it's like, at least you've got a decent leg and all this lot. And then there'd be an above the knee amputee and below, and he'd be ragging the guys, with that still had the, and I'd be like, oh my God. And I'd be trying to teach him to climb, and day 2 or 3 or whatever, I'd be teaching. I'd be go, right, lads, so don't worry if don't worry if you put your knee down here, just to give yourself a bit of support. And they'd be like, fuck off, Sip, some of us haven't got these. And you'd be like, oh my God, I'm sorry, lads. And they'd be just laughing their heads off. And that was how, that black sense of humor that all soldiers have got that have seen some pretty honking stuff. It was just there. And I loved it. And I went all the way as a novice. I was to learn to become an adaptive instructor. I went all the way through to 10 years later, becoming the senior instructor and exped leader. And I loved it, and it's still going now. There's lads that I brought into the fold. Steve Crosby Jones, Les Longshanks, legends. Les I met doing a Klettersteig course in Germany. Who was he won't mind me saying it. He was the lead pilot at the Battle of Bastion. Apache me, and was a cab pilot at Hereford for years. He's been around the block, and he was a big lad as well. And we were sat in this lodge in Bavaria, and he got some, his breath opposite him, and it's something I learned and I wasn't commissioned then. I can't remember what rank I was. It doesn't matter. Because there was no ranking battle back, which is another thing I loved. It was great. And the lads would try and work. They thought I was some sort of Royal Marine Club swinger or something. It was and then when you tell them, no, I'm a loggy captain. Anyway, he was sat opposite me, and he went away to get like a cup of tea, and he had like a couple of sausages, and I nicked his sausages and ate his sausages. And they were just cracking on with breakfast. And he came back down with his tea, put it down there. He was like, and he was like, mate, have you sausages? No, it wasn't me. And he's like, what the fuck? That was good. And he's a brother. He's absolutely been there for me. And he again, he won't mind me saying, he went through a divorce. He's got 2 beautiful kids, and he's trying to just be a dad. And he's had to fight for 2 years in court, and it's been insane for him. It's been hard, but he's there, and he's in a
you've got, I think people, if you haven't been through divorce, you don't realise how hard it is. And then if you've got kids involved, then I can't even imagine that sort of process. But I think it's the community, isn't it, that the veterans and the military have, that just keep us kind of on point and keep us there a lot of the time. And it's having that amazing sort of friendship and support group, isn't it? That, do you think that helps get
I think
through?
to be honest, it's the one thing I miss, and it's the thing that many of the guys that served, regardless of badge, it's the hardest thing, that transition from being in the military to, and to be honest, I resigned my commission. They were offering me the potential to become a colonel and stuff like that, and it was never about the rank with me. It was never about the money or anything. I basically I've basically got a stone. I've had my arse removed, which is not, again, it's not a sob story, because I'm one of the only mountaineers that can go for a shit on a multi-pitch and not have to worry about it. It's insane. So
It's a
about it.
positive. Yeah.
It's a massive positive, yeah. And plus, yeah, I was going to say something. I was going to say something completely non-PC, so I won't say that. Yeah. So that's thrown me completely because of my. So I have got PTSD, and
Yeah. So
there are things I'm not.
no, it's fine. It's fine. I think most of my interviews, because we're all veterans, are always off piece.
Okay, yeah. So the good thing is I was ever to if I was to ever get hijacked and held as a by a terrorist, at least I can't be bumped.
So it's seeing the positive. Seeing the positive. Your enduro series, Should we talk about that? Because some of the stuff you've done on Enduro 7, Enduro 214 with the Wayne, right? I can't say that way. And then your next one, which is Enduro 3, is it?
Yeah. So I'm never gonna be a podium. You know, I've done 18 Ironmans. I'm never gonna be a podium finish. It's not that fit. I can just go. I can just go and not stop. And so all the endurance events were designed to make people stand up and what what the veteran, because they're all done for combat stress as well. And combat stress are the best charity out there that look after veterans with mental health problems, predominantly PTSD. And I'm the kind of Lancashire rep as well. And there's 300,000 vets here, and many suffering in silence. So I've all and what I realised with when I worked Battleback is that there wasn't a lot out there for them when they eventually would get discharged, and they would, 90 discharged. And so I set up my own company called Extreme Outdoor, play on words, X, and that was set up to look after veterans and get and help them with their health and well, get them in the mountains. If I can train them to get the foundation courses, and they want to come and get in the industry, that's what the bit. And yeah, I made some, a lot of it. And also then I combat stress asked me after doing all these mental endurance challenges, they're like, mate, do you want to come on board? Of course I do. If there's anything I can do to help. And so all of these done with a message. And the first one, Enduro 7, was 7 extreme events over 7 days with no sleep. And I was still serving them when I did that. I was with 6 Reg. And the team that were around me, the support team, were all part of my own regiment and squadron. And they were outside help. There was guys that I'd known through Battleback instructors that came on board. This was there as well. Legend. With the me to keep me going. That's just letting me know that I need.
Yeah.
It's all happening, Gina.
And it's real, yeah.
Bit of
Yeah. Well, no, it's good to see it. I had when years ago I had a boot camp for years, quite successful. I remember this lad used to bring me jelly babies every day, and I'd be like, "Oh, he brought me jelly babies again," but he was obviously diabetic. But sometimes I'd sneak one because you never know. We get low sugar as well.
Yeah, well, doing all the endurance stuff that you do, you are going to be a sufferfest. So, sippy trail mix.
Yeah. No, that looks good. That looks like it's got jelly babies in it and stuff like that.
I was supporting the Keswick Mountain Marathon, the 50K, and I basically brought in the markers, following the last man. And in fact, it was the last woman. She was alleged. What?
Been in that position a few times on ultras.
Yeah,
Stay ahead.
I was just there with her, and I was giving her sippy trail mix to keep her going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these, in order for you to know your limits, you have to push them in the first place, and so that's what I was doing. And all the lads in the team, I think most of them joined the team just to see if their boss, because most of them I was their OC, see if their OC like
his nails.
Well, no, would hallucinate and pile in, and they wanted to be there and get it on camera. It was mental, and Les. What we'll do is there was something that pilots have, and NASA astronauts have, where they do this. It's very short questions just to see how you are, and Les was doing that with me 6 hours, and it was the event. Because it wasn't that, and Les was like, "What is going on? Why are you still functioning?" And and I'm like, "Mate, do we have to keep?" It was like an app. I said, "Do we have to keep doing this?" What I realised is I was just bone, not not. And so we chinned that off in the end, and we just cracked on. And yeah, and I wait for basically for 7 days. Yeah, just cracking on. Um, and the events was it was like to I jacked up doing a 24-hour abseil many people have ever done. And we tried to, they were talking about world records, and it was like, $2 grand. I'm like, mate, I'm not spunking any money.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to pay a lot, don't you, to get that tick in the box?
Um, and the place where we were going to abseil pulled out right at the last minute because I think their board of directors got hold of it and went, "Oh my god, the risk is too much. We're not doing this. No amount of risk assessment SIPS row is going to
Yeah.
justify it." And one of the lads on the team is Geordie, be a good lad. His cousin ran a rope access company in Glasgow, and he said, "Mate, I'll speak to my cousin," and they set up an abseil at in Liverpool, exchange flags, and it was amazing. Double lines as well, two lines and two abseils, so two of us could go at the same time, and they kind of just fell in. They were just like, "Mate, is he insane?" Right, and with cousin Lee and his part and the other guy that was running the company, Kenny, we had like a bit of a bromance. And at the end of it, they were like, "Mate, what are you going to do when you leave the service?" Because they knew I was going to get out. I said, "Well, I don't know. I've set but they went, mate, you're a mountaineer. Why don't you get your rope access ticket? And if you do, we'll employ you." And I was like, "Okay," and that's what I did. And I got the ticket when I got out. In fact, no, I got it while I was still serving, and actually I was working.
Yeah. Get what you've got to do, haven't you? Yeah. There's big money
Yeah,
in that.
yeah, and I got my ticket and I started, but because it was last minute, the abseil was supposed to be the day one because obviously it's quite dangerous being not having any sleep constantly. And it had to be like day 5. And so by then I'd not slept for 5 days.
Did you not have any little micro snoozes?
Yeah,
Because
I learned how to
yeah,
I
because
learned how to fall asleep standing up.
yeah, so, yeah, I had that only once when I was doing Brecon. In the signals, it's called your sergeant's course for your staffy, which is weird, but anyway, you're already a sergeant, and one guy fell asleep as he was patrolling. I was like, oh my god, how did he do that? And then the next thing, like I did it, and he was like, how? Yeah, so yeah,
So
crazy.
I did senior Brecon to go to Sandhurst as an instructor, but I hadn't done junior Brecon. And the DS, I was a staffy then as well. And you know what it's like senior Brecon. It's all
All
it gave me an absolute brand new respect for infanteers for what they do, like insane. And obviously, senior Brecon hard course, and the DS are saying, "Oh, remember back to junior Brecon this," and I'm like,
yeah, you're like,
and then eventually they would see my face and go, "Sip, don't worry, we'll talk." Okay, and I did winter Brecon as well. I think there was 102 of us on the course, and I was the only. And I was like a leper. No one wanted to come and see all the blue, red, blue, guardsmen together, all the paras together,
yeah,
um, and there was a lad there was a lad from Hereford that was there as well, and he kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and there was loads of high ranking officers that would come on visits and stuff like that, and we'd be on X range, on a fucking live assault, and everything would stop. Some brigadier or general was there, and there'd be me and him in the war because obviously if you're going to patrol, you're going to be in a fucking dream.
yeah,
Of course you are. And they would talk to this so I'm not going to say his name or anything like that for obvious reasons, but he had a hooded, like Gore-Tex waterproof jacket. It was like Gucci, and they say to him, "Oh, how come you're wearing a over?" And they go, "Oh, you are," and you go, "I'm from Hereford." they'd be like, oh, and they wouldn't ask him any more questions. And then he'd go, oh, and what cat badge are you? And they went, and I'm like, I'm a loggy. I went, and I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, are you driver? I'm like, no. And the Hereford lad, Steve, we're like, how are you on this course? I'm like, no, I'm asking myself like the same question. And they went, oh, and I've noticed are you a staff sergeant? I'm like, yeah. And that went on for like the entire, and I did LFTT, bolted onto it as well. So I was there for a long time. And in the end, because I was always doubting myself as well, I have a habit of doubting my ability to do anything, self-sabotage. And when we finished the course, I think there was less than 50 of us there was less than 50, so 50% had piled in. And I came away with the distinction, like one of the only loggies to ever do it. And there was quite a few blades on there, and I think he'd been telling them about me, and I started, hanging out, just having a laugh. And in the photo, they don't do that for obviously reasons. But he came and found me before he left.
Not in those days, anyway.
Yeah, and he gave me his alley waterproof hooded jacket, as a present. Here you go, mate. Oh, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause you're nuts.
And it was just, mate, he said, fucking you did well, mate. Because I get a bit, yeah, anyway, let's tell you about.
Yeah, no, that's a thing, isn't it? We've all got stories to sell. So your next challenge is Enduro 3, and that's up in Scotland, isn't it? And you helped me on my similar one, but I had sleep. I know I wasn't hardcore, and you really helped me on the paddle phase with your tips that I hadn't even thought about.
Well, you're still here, so
Yeah, I did just about. So when are you going for that, and tell everyone what that entails?
So I did the Enduro 214. So the 2-year break. So it's August this year. So the 214 was doing all the Wainwrights in one sitting, staying on them. And again, the reason behind that was, soldiers, veterans having to carry their life on their shoulders, and that was the kind of what I thought was some sort of smart boss, analogy. So this one, the Enduro 3 is in August. So basically, I'm going to Great Glen, turn mountain bike back down the Great Glen Way, run back.
Easy. You did it. You did Enduro 7, so that's half of it.
I know I can do 7 days, so
Yeah. So for people who don't know, the Great Glen is it's the only lake or loch that has its own RNLI, because the waves can be like 3-4 meters, and it's got the most body of water. If we take England and Wales, all its lakes, it's got more water in that loch.
That's why a lot.
And Nessie. Well, if you get a lift off Nessie, then I don't know whether that's cheating. No, she didn't show up for me. No. Well, that's epic, and you're doing that all for combat stress again.
I am. Yeah, I'm splitting it this time. Eating with my mouth open.
It's okay. We'll let you off.
I'm splitting it this time, half and half, because I've Bowland and Pennine Mountain Rescue Team. I've always wanted to be in mountain rescue, but I've never been settled. And so I applied when I first got here, and didn't get through. So I was like, what? And then somebody there contacted me. They must have seen my application from the previous year and went, "Oh my god, this guy, he's to the team." And they said, "Hey, listen, applications happen against it, And so I put my application again, and I got through. and there was 14 of us when we started, and we're down to 7. It's a funny old thing, isn't it? Why is it every time I do stuff, it's like almost half the people leave? Is it me?
They all leave. But no, it's an incredible. The rescue teams are unbelievable. That are
This
out there.
this
What they
this
do,
team
incredible.
is, I think it's got 46 members. There's some quite old guys there, but don't they 30? There's guys there that have got MBEs because of the stuff that they've done. I have got so much respect for them, and because they I thought they were, I'm some like cocky twat, and so I've got through the probationers, and I'm now in the trainee phase. So now, because there's 3 of us that have got our 16-hour first aid, our 2-day first aid, we can go out on search and rescues now. So we're not bad or anything like that, and we won't be. Long process, and at first I was like, why is it? But I really do understand it now. Too much to learn and do it their way. Whatever I've learned as a high rope access tech and a professional mountaineer, they've got their way, and it's keep it simple, safe. And so you just and I understand it now, and yeah, and so I wanted to split the money. So 50, it's 50-50, half to combat stress and half to.
Yeah, brilliant. So where can people, find you online to donate or follow your journey? Because
So if they
stuff.
Google Enduro 3 or SIP Extreme Outdoors, any of those, I'm sure you can like share a
Yeah,
link or.
I'll put the links in when I learn how to do that.
Yeah, and so that's gonna happen that's happening on the 2nd of August, and that's what all my training is towards at the moment. Just to, I'm trying to go there injury free. It's like.
It's easy to pick it up now, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, no, well, that is awesome, and I'll obviously be watching without doubt. I probably can't make it up, otherwise I'd try and get up there. But I think I'm away with the cadets. Well, yeah, it's a
Bring a load of cadets there, and they can run up.
yeah. Well, we're actually up in Scotland, but yeah, yeah. The cadets were the only ones that although my one was solo unsupported, I did have some. They dropped the kayak off and stuff, and that was the cadets up there that helped me. So they're a good dinner if you need support, definitely. But you've got so much support from others, I think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm waiting for the hallucinations on camera.
Well, I just hope I don't fall asleep while I'm paddling and roll over.
And it's cold. So I asked these questions to everyone. So who was your biggest either superhero when you were growing up or role model during your life that you've taken them at? There's going to be
Uh,
loads.
It, it,
What?
it is so bizarre. My life is so bizarre. So one of my heroes was Alan Hinks, because obviously he's the only Brit to have climbed all 14 of the 8,000 meters. And
Oh,
um,
wow.
yeah, he was a reservist. So and now he's like, he phoned me yesterday. In fact, I'm him on Friday with Outward Bound down at.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, you're up that way. I'm up there quite a lot, so I'll have to book in the next time I'm around.
Well, yeah, I mean Preston's. It's Preston. That's why I settled in Preston.
Well, I'm in Preston. In Preston today. That's where I'm going next. I'll tell you about it offline. Yeah, I'll get. Yeah, I have to work as talk to these.
Well,
Amazing.
I'm really lucky because, and this is really important because I now work for a company called Keys Group as their kind of health and safety and quality assurance advisor for their outdoor education. They've
Oh
got
wow.
4 centres ran
Yeah.
by Peak, and they're along this corridor from Manchester down to Birmingham, and the company have been so amazing with me and recognise, and this is really important message for any military guys. There are companies out there now that are starting to recognise the transferable skills that can come across from guys that have served. And this company are a massive advocate of veterans. I'm part of their veterans working group, and we're having a meeting today about it. They have been unbelievably supportive, and the fact that they know unfortunately, my wife, my mum is dying in right now as we talk, and obviously it's the anniversary for Emma's death in a couple of weeks' time, and the support that they have given me is off the scale. I can't thank them enough.
Yeah, that's. I mean, sorry, obviously to hear about that. That's shit,
She's
really.
90.
Yeah, that's what people say, but it's still. It's. I know the impact of it is still quite hard, but it's so important that you've got such a good company that's supporting you, and it's nice to hear that they recognise what veterans offer, because a lot of companies don't realise what we can offer. You know, we're pretty good eggs, as they say. But so finally, and I'll let you take the call in a minute. Finally, what?
It might be actually.
Yeah. So what do you want to say?
Uh,
So what does Beyond the Barracks mean to you?
I just think it's that transition. It's believing in your core values that we've all learnt while we served, and bringing them into the civilian world, and make else understand our moral component and our moral compass and our core values are valuable, more so than what most civies. Yeah, I've found the transition quite.
Yeah, definitely. The core values that we all take forward into civilian street are invaluable, I think, and that's a really key message. So thanks a lot. I could chat to you for hours, and I've got so many tangents I could go off on because we've
Same
got
here.
similar
In
interests.
fact, sorry, I was going on loads of time.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. It's a better conversation, isn't it, when it's real, and because we know each other and we enjoy the same sides of life, and that it's been a great podcast. So thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
It's everything that you've done for people that are suffering as well. So I hope the listeners realise exactly what it is you've done, and the recognition you've.
Well, I'm going to let you go, and and it's been incredible. I want to get you on after Enduro 3 as well, and we can go off on more tangents. So good luck.